So as I got comfortable in the back seat, I just laid back and I looked up at the top of my car, the roof of my SUV, and thought to myself, how will I know that I'm not in here anymore? Which is an interesting question. And really, I now recognize as kind of the first entry into meditation. And the next entry into meditation, which I didn't know, was I began to focus heavily on my breathing. What I noticed was first, initially, a very strange feeling within the body, different than just what was happening with the medications and the alcohol. It was a noticing that the body was in distress. I wasn't in pain. I wasn't writhing or nauseous. I just knew that something was shifting. And I was starting to hear what I call a crackling sound. But what I noticed was that wasn't a sound like you or I describe outside audibly. It was that I was becoming the sound. The next thing I noticed was an energy or what felt like a pulling effect. And again, it wasn't something external. And I know this is really hard to understand. And most of us who have had a near-death experience will say this at least once in our sharing. There are no words to equate what happened. I do my best to point to it with words, which is all I have in this 3D linear version. The body just felt molecular. It felt vibrational. It felt like energy, something I had never experienced. I noticed that sensation pulling in an upwards like motion. The next thing I knew was this upwards pulling was so strong, and then I was out of the car and it appeared to be above it, as if the top of my SUV wasn't even there, and I was looking down through a glass top, seeing the physical body beneath me writhing and moving and obviously in distress, but I was not contained in that, nor was I experiencing it, nor was I the one thinking I need to get back in there, or, oh my gosh, what have I done? Or shame on you. There was none of that happening. There was just almost like an inquisitive little child noticing. I don't know how long this seemed to have gone on, because again, many NDEs will say this as well. Time and space just dissipate. I wasn't a body. I wasn't a vessel. I wasn't a person anymore. There weren't thoughts. There wasn't distress. There was just noticing. The sensation of the upward pull got stronger and stronger, and the sensation of the upward pull lifted the energy of that which I refer to as Kelly now, but no body. And up, 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 it appeared to go. Louder, 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 sensation stronger, 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 until there was a thrust and a burst into what I call blackness, just pure blackness. I know that may sound scary to someone who's listening to this, but trust me, there was nothing scary about this. It was the most intense, beautiful feelings of love I've ever experienced, and I would have happily stayed there. And there was this momentum again that seemed to have pulled or thrust me into what I refer to as the most delicate, beautiful color of pink that I've never been able to reproduce or see again. Because again, our linear version of sense, smell, taste, touch, all the senses is very much muted for the 3D experience. It felt as though the energy unfolded like it had been trapped in a tuna or sardine can for all of its eternity. And the beauty of what was around me was just pure love, and I was that. It wasn't, I'm looking at pink, I'm smelling these gardenian orchid smells that are just unfathomable. I'm hearing angelic music that I can't even put a finger on, but is so familiar. I know it. It knows me. I was it. And I will say that over and over and over again, because to me, it's the most significant part of this journey and story, which is we become so convinced of this egoic self, and that all dissipates. It all is left. It's what we refer to as death. And then there was this knowingness that I was being summoned or called, all telepathic, all without words or the linear structures that we rely on to communicate here. It was just known. And the next thing that I seemed to have perceived was what I now refer to as Archangel Gabriel. How I knew that was what was happening, I will never be able to explain that, and I don't think I need to. I just knew. And there was a known way to follow this energy, without having to try and understand it. Unlike others, I didn't have a go through a tunnel experience. I didn't have what others refer to as a life review. My life review appeared to me in the feeling of being in this place that felt like a tomb, that was the most beautiful experience, and again, the most loving. And as soon as that settled, it was as if my whole 38 years flashed before me. There were all these experiences that appeared to have happened in my 38 years. We call them good, bad, right, wrong, sinful, or just. And what I noticed was none of that was playing out here. It was almost like watching a slideshow that I was reliving. It wasn't outside of me. I was re-experiencing it with each entity, but it happened in what appeared to be seconds. And every single part was celebrated. And each part, even those we call the most painful, are too, in fact, beautifully orchestrating themselves. And the celebration was after each one. It wasn't just what we call the good stuff. I now refer to this as my soul plan. These life exchanges or soul plans, some of which I was able to be with the energies that had caused harm to myself, one significant one. At the age of 3, I was visited by my paternal grandfather, and he was one of the entities that I was able to experience and heal so much, obviously, with. There was such a willingness for that to be healed and known, and then there was such a willingness to understand that he too was part of my soul family, and here supporting me and rooting for me and cheering me on in all the life experiences, including the one that we had, which was so painful. So beautifully, many of these things seem to have played out. And again, I can't refer to how long I spent in this beautiful structure having these experiences, but it felt like seconds. It felt like just seconds. I had an intuitive knowingness that I wasn't going to be staying. There wasn't a wrestle with that. I later discover, as this unraveling of my near-death experiences continued, that there was a struggle, apparently, and a negotiation to not return to the physical body. But in this apparent experience on that particular day, there seemed to just be a willingness and intuitive knowingness. I now know, part of my soul plan, that I would return to the physical body and I would resume and continue on with my life, but that I would no longer be the same version of Kelly that had just committed the act of suicide. The next thing I realized was hearing an auditory voice and seeing a physical presence, and it was physical, of what was my 5-year-old that I had left behind in the version of a 21-year-old physical body in front of me saying, "I need you, Mom. I need you to come back." So as I heard that and saw him and felt his presence, I knew it was necessary, and in my heart, intuitively, I knew that I would be the person he needed me now, which was the reason I wanted to leave the body to begin with, was I felt that his life would be better without me. So with what appeared to be a newfound understanding of incarnation and lots of support and energy on the other side, there was a willingness for this to happen, an engagement to return and be what I apparently needed to be in my soul plan for my son. The last thing that I recall is I was energetically moving and the vibration was starting to change and the popping was starting to return. The gardenia and all the smells and the angelic sounds were starting to become more muted. The pink was getting less and less. Was the angels guiding me? And what I was told to me was the most profound message that I brought back with me, which is our only role here is to breathe and not resist. Such a powerful, packed thing to bring home. And it has continued to unravel since 2008 in understanding experientially what that meant. Breathe and don't resist. Breathe and don't resist. Breathe and don't resist. The rest is taken care of. It's become the mantra that plays in the mind at times that seem tough. So the first one I got to experientially recognize that was noticing I had EMTs and ambulance workers all around me trying to save me. I didn't know how I had been discovered. It didn't matter. There was no interest in what had happened to the body. There was no concern about it. There was just this popping sensation, moving from the pinkness back into that darkness, and then just what felt like I was back in a sardine can.